Hey, and welcome to the Stories Unveiled podcast, where we talk about the purpose in every story and how to live in freedom from your past. I'm your host, Ashley Sears, and each episode you're invited into a conversation about real life between me and a friend. I believe if an issue is addressed in the Bible, then it's important to create a safe and supportive space to discuss it. While some of these conversations are not easy, I do believe they are worth it. If you like what you hear, please visit our ministry at storiesunveiledconference.com. Thank you for joining today.
This episode is brought to you in part by Pure Desire Ministries. Lives and relationships are being destroyed by sexual brokenness, pornography, and betrayal trauma. Pure Desire believes you were designed to live a life without sexual brokenness and the effects it can have on your future. After working with men, women, and churches for over 20 years, Pure Desire has developed a comprehensive plan to breaking free, healing relationships, and getting your life back from sexual brokenness and betrayal trauma. Through recovery and healing groups, a clinical program, and partnerships, Pure Desire is helping the church effectively address unwanted sexual behaviors, betrayal trauma, and the impact of sexual brokenness. To join a group, start counseling, or get more information, go to puredesire.org. You can take your life back from sexual brokenness and betrayal trauma. Start your journey of healing today.
Today, Hanna McGee and I are chatting about how to regain your life after burnout and overwhelm. Hanna will share how she reached a place of total burnout and practical ways we can make changes in our lives to prevent it from happening again. Hanna has a successful marketing business, runs a family, serves on the board of her church, and started an incredible platform for the people of Canyon County, Idaho called iHeart2C. I hope you find this episode helpful. Thanks for being here, Hanna. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
So I just want to dive in and get to know a little bit about you. So can we chat about who you are? Who is Hanna McGee?
Yes, of course. So I grew up here in Idaho, just right outside of Boise in Nampa, Idaho, and grew up most of my years there. I was actually homeschooled.
Really?
Yeah, my whole life. My mom homeschooled all 7 of us kids. I'm the oldest of 7.
That's...
Yeah,
what a great mom.
Yes, she's a saint. I definitely would say she's a saint. And I married my husband of 18 years. We lived here in the same area. And he was involved in politics for a very long time. So we've been very involved in our community, I would say, overall, whether it was in politics or serving on boards or just helping our community grow. That has definitely been one big thing, a part of my life and my husband's life. We have 2 kids. My daughter is 15, almost ready to start driver's ed.
That's a fun time.
Yeah. And my son is 13. And then I run my own business, helping local businesses with their marketing, with their social media, really helping them grow, especially if they're new, growing in the community, helping the community know about them so that they can increase their revenue. And then 5 years ago, 2018, I started a women's networking group that really led with connections, so women of all walks of life could be a part of it. And I just sold it to somebody else.
Yeah, I know. We're going to talk about that. We're going to kind of talk about all the things.
Yeah, so that was a big part of my life for the last 5 years.
Now, your marketing that you do, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it just for brick and mortars?
No, not necessarily. That's what I'm focusing on right now because I see the most growth very quickly and the most struggles is with brick and mortars wanting to get people through the door. And so that's what I love because my heart and what I believe for them to grow strongly is to be connected to the community, for their community to know who they are, why should they come through the doors. And so that is where I really love to focus my energy is on local brick and mortars.
Okay. Now, tell me about iHeart2C. What is that? I know why, but tell the listeners why you call it 2C.
So in 2018, also, I started a platform for this community that we live in here in Idaho. It's actually the county of Canyon County, which encompasses about 3 towns.
Okay.
And like I said, I grew up here too.
So you have a passion for this particular area of what we call the Treasure Valley, but this particular area.
Yeah, I do.
Canyon County.
Yeah, okay. I definitely do. And I think part of it is because I grew up in one town, and then when I got married, I moved to another town, but they cross, kind of overlap each other. And so 2C, here's some facts for you for Idaho, is all of our license plates, you will see numbers and then a letter, which is actually identifying our counties in our state.
Right.
So 2C is so we have, I think, 3 counties that start with the letter C.
Right.
And so they have 1C, which is Camas.
Yep.
And then 2C is us, Canyon County. So Canyon County is known by, you live in 2C.
Right.
And when I was younger, 2C drivers were known for the crazy driver situation. So you kind of didn't actually want a license plate that had 2C on it at the one time.
Fun fact, also, just really fast.
Yeah.
So my daughter, while she wasn't born here, we live in Ada County, which is 1A,
right,
on the license plates. But she wasn't born here, but she did grow up here. She started from first grade and she's now a senior. And at some point, I want to say it's in 4th grade, is Idaho history.
Right.
And so they have to memorize and learn every county in the entire state of Idaho.
Yes.
With a song.
Yeah.
And so to this day, she still has that song memorized. And so she knows what every license plate number is because of that. So
that's
anyways,
great.
Fun fact.
I love it. I do. I will have to admit, we never did that in homeschool, so I didn't learn all the things.
Yeah.
So my kids know that song as well, and it's fun, and I love it because I don't think there's very many other states, if at all, that have their license plates that way. So
yeah. Okay, so you have I Heart 2C
because of that
of the area in which we are. So when you started that in 2018, why did you start that?
Because I was so active in the community and on social media a lot, at that time I was helping my husband with our marketing business and doing a lot of social media.
Okay.
So I saw there was other platforms that were highlighting the other towns here in Idaho in the Treasure Valley about Boise and Meridian and just highlighting events and businesses. And I found that there's nobody doing anything in Canyon County in this area. And so I'm like, well, I could do that. And I'm very well connected in this community and I know a lot what's going on. And so I thought, well, why don't I just start something and kind of do it like them, but make it more personal. And so I reined my sister that's right after me into it. And so she and I started that. And and just started reached out to businesses. Hey, would you like to be featured on this platform? It was a free platform at that time to promote businesses and anything that's going on in the community of Nampa, Caldwell, and Middleton, and kind of the outer surrounding rural areas as well. Mm-hmm. And just, and it was a hit. Everybody really enjoyed being highlighted in this area and really kind of having the autonomy of this area. And it was great. And it got me more connected and it really just continued to grow my heart and interest for this community and into what it is today. It's definitely taken on some different flows where I had to slow down because I was doing a lot. So it now more promotes just more of the community than all the things that are going on in every event. I don't highlight as much anymore, but more what I believe is what helps build community. And now that I've sold Empowerment Women Connect, will be my platform where you can find me.
I Heart 2C. Okay. So really quickly, tell me about Empowered Women Connect, because that's how I met you right at the tail end as you were getting ready to sell it.
Yeah.
So what is that? How can people find that? And because it's not gone, it's just transferred owners and leadership in that regard. So tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah. So like I said, in 2018, along with starting I Heart 2C, one thing that I saw when I'd start reaching out to businesses and going through their doors is a lot of female owners in this community that own brick and mortars and own businesses that want to be promoted.
Tons of entrepreneur females.
Yes. And so another thing that I started hearing is just, they wanted support. They were looking for community themselves. They were looking for other women to grow with and learn from, and also the competitive struggles that I think more than anything that we kind of build as women in our minds, that there's more competition than I think there really is.
Right.
And so I also was a part of some networking groups that I really didn't feel very connected to. And I felt like I always had to refer these certain people that I really didn't know, but I felt obligated because that was kind of the requirements of networking. And so my husband's like, well, why don't you just start something of your own if you don't like what you're a part of?
Right.
And so I'm like, oh, okay. So I actually reached out to another gal who had kind of started something similar in Boise. Her name is Diana, and she actually runs Boise Bucket List, which is a big promotional platform for Boise area. And so she came out and supported me and kind of helped me get going, but she quickly saw that I could do it on my own with some support. And so she, like I said, she was a big support, but she kind of backed off and it just took off. Women really wanted to be a part of something where you could connect first. You didn't have to have a business. You could lead with your who you are, not what you do.
Yeah.
And so it quickly grew. And the great thing is, through COVID, we were able to hop on Zooms and be able to support each other and really help carry each other through that really difficult time. And then once the doors opened again, that was when it almost like the numbers doubled.
Wow.
And ever since then, we've had over 40, 50 women every month meeting together all over the Treasure Valley. So it wasn't one location. It was different.
Moved around. Yeah, I attended your last one before you sold it. And that's actually something that I noticed when I walked in. I knew you, and we hadn't even met in person.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody there. And when I walked in, the people that I spoke to the first question was never like, what do you do? It's, how do you know Hanna? Or how are you connected to this? Or is this your first one? Like, it was more about who you were. And something else that I noticed is that it was truly women from all walks. I don't know, because it's not a faith-based organization. You are a Christian,
yes,
but it is not a faith-based organization. And that's something that I thought was really unique, but also really cool, because some of the women I connected with, I don't actually know their faith background, and that's okay. And there are other women there who, have scripture tattooed all over their neck and their arms and all the things. And like, she was amazing too. And you can just talk about, it's just an open forum to be able to talk about anything. And so super welcoming. Now, I want to ask you, what brought you to selling it? Which is really kind of what we're talking about today.
Yes. Well, what brought me to selling it was just over a year ago in 2022. So every year we would have a huge celebration, kind of just, I'm not about fluff. When we meet together, we're not going to have tons of balloons and decor. We are just about connecting and not having a lot of, like I said, I call it fluff. But once or twice a year, we'll go bigger and have all the fluff. So we the 2022, we had my 4-year celebration.
Okay.
And, went big. We had a DJ, and it was great. It was beautiful. It was fun. It was a lot of work because I mostly do everything by myself.
Yeah.
I'd have some people kind of help do the fluff part, but it's a lot of work, more than any other mixer. And I remember leaving that event, and I had probably over 75 women there. Leave and love it and think, all the great feedback and all this. And I leave and I'm like, what did I do this for? Like, I was exhausted. And that one there, we don't sit down and connect. It's more of a party kind of celebration.
Yeah. Like mingle.
Yeah. And I just left, and I'm like, I spend a lot more money. And I just was like, what was this for? It's celebrating me of 4 years. Yay. But I didn't feel like there was any meaning for the women behind it, except seeing how successful this was for what I did.
Yeah.
And I was really, I could tell burnt out. I think I had started losing my boundaries with just time and the activities that I was doing at the time. I have 2, at that time, preteens, and it's a lot. And so at that time, I really kind of wanted to take a break for the next month. But like I said, I host one every month. And I felt kind of obligated, like, gosh, if I stop, that just gives a gap and gives, I kind of let my competitive side get a hold of me and say, someone could else kind of take that flow and I could lose the momentum that I've created from that party. So I kept going the next one, but I could feel myself just getting more tired and more worn out. In the process also, we were getting ready to do a fundraiser for a nonprofit locally who they will host river rafting trips for people who are fighting cancer.
Okay.
And I felt like somehow that I needed to do this. And I met with that nonprofit and we were going to do this big event for them. And I knew in my gut, like I knew this wasn't aligned, not because they were wrong or bad or anything. I just knew deep down that this is just, I didn't feel aligned. I didn't feel like this is something I actually wanted to do behind the scenes, but I felt too committed already.
Yeah.
So once again, just kept going, even though I didn't trust myself and just could sense. So it just started
weren't
building.
Supposed to be doing this.
No.
But you kept saying yes.
Yep. I kept saying yes. Could not say no. I didn't feel like I could say no. In the meantime, I'm also going to England for my sister's wedding. As the oldest sister, taking care of the youngest sister. It was a lot. And so all those piled up of saying yes, yes, yes to everything, not creating boundaries. And England was another place where I didn't create any boundaries with my extended family. It was overwhelming to help my kids because they had to leave school. It was a lot. So when I got back, I crashed. I was like, I didn't even enjoy England because I didn't put any boundaries on and I just exhausted myself. And that was a week before my fundraiser. And so I almost burned it down then. And thankfully, I had a membership of group of women that could see what was starting to happen. So they reached out and said, you don't have to do this right now and let us carry some of this burden. And I was so blessed to have that group of women that just could see it and they kind of stepped in. So thankfully it did not burn down there. But I think that was a sign. Those were the signs that I should have probably started ending it sooner. But of course, I did not see it that way. But I also so it was truly to me in burnout. Thank God my health didn't fully tank.
That's what I was going to ask is did your health suffer at all? Because I know that's a lot of times what happens.
Yeah, I would say no. My body didn't shut down. I know a lot of people will get like fatigue, adrenal fatigue or whatever. I didn't get that bad. I think I caught it quick enough and started like cutting out a lot of events last year in 2022. I always forget. Yeah, 2022.
Yeah.
And just started saying no, but also like that was kind of, I hit a wall and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to not be there for my kids or not be there for my family, be there for my husband because I'm so pulled in so many directions because I've said yes to everything. And so that was kind of a time where I just sat, I really had to kind of face facts of like, okay, how did I get here? Really had to sit with the Lord and just like, I like say sorry because I had really kind of tried to take control of everything and not just, and kind of pushed him aside in a way of like, just, not asking him and asking him for guidance and letting him kind of help guide me.
That's cool that you actually, I would not have necessarily like thought that or said that, but that you're like, I had to sit with the Lord and just say, I'm sorry. Cause like, that's really what it is, right? When we don't have boundaries, we have a hard time saying no. It's maybe a little pride, maybe a little like, I can do it. And how often are we like, I got it, especially as wives and moms and like, I got it, it's fine. But it's not sustainable.
No, it's not. And I think I was finally to that place. I was kind of like tired of being tired.
Yeah.
And not wanting to be, in this mind frame and this lack of energy and just, I think the biggest thing was being in England and not being able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
The way I know I could have.
Absolutely.
Because of the lack of boundaries and all that. I'm like, I don't want to ever go on a trip like this again and feel this way.
Yeah.
And so what is going on?
Yeah.
So I thankfully I had another friend. She actually coaches with, about helping women with boundaries and working with, overwhelm and, burnout. And so it kind of just started this new journey for me of I'm an achiever, and then again, Enneagram 3. And so I love, I'm driven by achieving. I'm driven by, getting accolades and being recognized as a leader, those kind of things.
Is that a little bit, that's like people pleasing?
Yes,
too.
I am a people pleaser. And so really at that point, there were some other things that I had taken on some clients that I know I shouldn't have. I had to check. There was just so many signs that I ignored. So many signs that summer that I ignored, and I started having to kind of figure out, okay, 1, what can I take out of my life? 2, what can I start putting boundaries on now? And how do I start this healing? Because I realized too, there's so many times that I think women too, we want a quick fix and move on. And that was definitely what I'm like, all right, I have overwhelm. So now I can move on. I recognized it, I called it out, and now I can move on. But that I knew, God was telling me, and everything was just like, no, this is not a quick fix. This is a slow process. This is a healing. This is for you to stop. Yeah. And you to sit in this, which was so hard. I hated that feeling of just having to sit. And really what ultimately it came to is realizing it wasn't my client's fault. It wasn't my community's fault. It was my fault that I got here. Yeah. And really sitting of like, just evaluating, what that looks like. How did I get to that point where I was saying yes too much? Yeah. And why couldn't I say no? And just these false expectations I think we create for ourselves as well, and believe these lies that we'll lose everything if we don't take a break, or
people will be upset or mad or disappointed.
Yes, my community will
I'll let them down.
Yes, yeah, and all of that. And it was a process. And so that was a year ago. This is 2023. So about a year ago, 2022 is when it really I started. And I remember, going through this process of healing. And what I realized too is even when you take the things out of your life that you feel like are burning you out, whether it's your clients, which I had removed some of those, that doesn't fix the problem either.
Right. I was going to ask you. So we get to the point of overwhelm or burnout, and whether it's our body starts failing or really it's just like our emotional breakdown and our mental space is really where it starts, I think. But all of these things happen and we get to the point where we're like, I can't do it anymore. Yeah. The answer isn't necessarily to like release all responsibilities, right? The answer isn't to just cut it all out of our lives, or even say like a one and done. Like, okay, I've recognized it. I'm going to stop doing X, Y, and Z, and then I'll be fine. Right. Especially like, okay, so you serve on the board at your church. You're a mom, you're a wife. You do have a business. Your husband, is busy. You guys are a busy family. You have commitments. We as wives and moms can't obviously relinquish all responsibilities. But even if you cut out all of the quote unquote unnecessary ones, I guess, really, and just stuck with what was needed for, your family and, to earn an income, it still doesn't fix the problem. No. So talk to me about how you really came to that conclusion and what you have to do long term. Yeah. Yes. Exactly what you described is what I had to learn, is that I could cut out all the unnecessary meetings and all the things. But what I realized is that's not going to fix the problem. It might it'll solve it for now, so you can move on. But if you don't truly identify what has gotten you there, you're going to get there again. Yeah. Because that's not the problem. The amount of stuff, the amount of events or meetings, that is not the problem. The problem is where you don't put boundaries around those, where you also don't trust. Because like I said, I had so many gut feelings of,
I knew that I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have said yes to this one client. I shouldn't have done these things, but I did
Lord
it anyways.
Was like,
yes.
Hannah.
Hey, here,
Hey.
I've given you this God-given intuition inside of you that this is your sign.
You're not listening to me.
Yeah. And so it was really going back to kind of, turning inward and really working with the Lord of just like, where are my boundaries? Where do you want me to set these? And where I know there are healthy boundaries with my family and my community, because you will get there. As soon as you get rid of those, they will come right back. It's like a habit. It's like an addiction, probably for me.
Yeah.
And so identifying those things of, what am I saying no to, and trusting my God-given intuition and my gut right away. Like when I have that sense, I move, I support that and trust it. Mm-hmm. Because what I've realized and seen every time that I trust that, I'm usually right.
Yeah.
And there usually is a reason why. And so, but what I had to do too is not just create that list of what am I saying no to, what are those boundaries, and what are the priorities that I have in my life again, but also like visiting them every day. Because you can make those lists, you can make those goals, but if you don't visit them every day, they will just fall by the wayside and you'll go back to the same habits. Because even if you don't like it, it's kind of safer to be there than get healthier and do something new. So that was part of my healing with overwhelm, is really being committed to continue those boundaries and continue to say no and trust my gut, because it's so easy to go back and start saying yes to everything.
Boundaries aren't bad.
No. And the more that I realized too, because I've struggled with people pleasing, is that the more I did set boundaries and let people know that I can't do this right now, or this isn't just in my priorities. I mean, more than not, people respect it.
Yeah.
They appreciate it. They also say, gosh, it's setting an example for them to see that actually they can put those kind of boundaries in their lives. And I didn't have hardly any pushback whenever I said, no, I can't do that. Or no, that's just not aligned with what I'm doing right now. It was never, oh, I hate you, I don't ever want to be your friend again. Like you feel like you're 7 years old again saying, if you say this, you're not going to be my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely, and so then back to back to how I sold is continuing down this road of healing. I tried to modify things for the community to help me align, because there was something that I'm just like, how can I release some of this load for my leaders, or how can I to help not me be so heavy or busy, or there was a sense that this was too much. But I was trying to figure out how I could, give some of the jobs to my leaders, and we did it quite a few times this earlier in 2023, where they led the mixers and stuff like that. But still, I tried to change it and modify it, and it never felt fully aligned, and I was still burnt out. And I finally, after I had this last revision, I was actually doing it with a leadership coach of this new membership and this new launch that I could do. And even in the meeting, I was like, yes, this sounds so good. I left and I was going over because I knew I was going to announce it and get it ready to launch online and on social media. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. It sounds so great, but I have no energy and excitement to do this.
Yeah.
And that was finally over a year, finally that click of like, I think I need to be done.
Yeah.
If I don't have any energy to do any of this, and starting to resent planning the mixers every month again, like I used to love it, do all the details. And it finally just hit me. I think God was just like with a big pan, boom, finally, and it was just like, and so I called because I had a leadership coach, and I said, I think I actually need to be done. And it was the craziest feeling in the world because nothing was wrong with it.
Yeah.
We had, max groups meeting and, everything was great.
Yeah.
So why should I end something that's so good? But no, I definitely knew I needed to end it. So then I just overnight started the process, and it was a huge change. I mean, it was a shock to everybody, I think, for the most part. And it wasn't planned, and I just jumped in with both feet, trying to figure out how could we do this and help the community continue to go. And so that's when I announced that I was ending it, but hoping and praying that someone would buy or take it on to keep the community going. So
yeah, I think that's
where I am.
Awesome, because I mean the Bible even talks about there are seasons for everything.
Yes,
and we are not called to, when we're in one season, to stay there forever. like if we were supposed to do, what we were doing when we turned 18 and, for the rest of our lives, then there would be no room for growth or change or lessons or whatever God wants to show us right throughout the course of our life. And so there are seasons for everything. And I think it speaks volumes to the point that to really be tuned into when a season is ending, because it doesn't always mean that it has to be bad.
No.
It doesn't mean that whatever is ending or, a new season coming, it doesn't mean that a transition has to be bad, or it has to mean because something's falling apart.
Yes.
It could just be because that's what's supposed to happen, and God put it in you. He had to use burnout, obviously, or overwhelm or whatever to be like, hey, there's something new for you. There's whether it's a new chapter or whatever else he's got for you. He's got you where he's got you now, moving forward with your marketing and wanting to focus more on this. But he's kind of refining what this next season and this next chapter is for you.
Yeah, and I think that was the biggest, fight probably for this whole last year. I think because nothing was wrong. I wasn't in the red. People were still coming and showing up and finding value.
By all accounts, it's successful.
Yeah, and I think that was just like, well, why should I? But you're exactly right. It is a season, and I definitely had to recognize that. And I think that's probably the biggest encouragement people have seen is just like, okay, just because it's doing well doesn't mean that we need to keep it going.
Yeah.
And I think too, with this person who bought Empowered Women Connect is like, we get stuck in our own boxes, and, I can only take Empowered Women Connect so far.
Yeah.
And to allow someone else to come in and see where they can take that and the impact that they can make is really exciting, but also, releasing your pride and your ego of just like, I can't do everything perfect, so it's relieving, but I think that was the hardest thing, because it's easy. I shouldn't say easy. It's easier, I think, to let something go when it's not working for you, or it's
when it doesn't serve you,
it doesn't serve you or anything. It's let's get rid of this, no problem. But so I think that was the biggest struggle and I think that's probably why it took so long, is because there was nothing wrong except something in me.
In you. Oh.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask you one last question. What would you tell somebody that's facing burnout or overwhelm right now? And maybe some insight, tips, wisdom. I know you've kind of shared a lot, but if you just had like something specific to tell somebody.
Yeah, I would definitely say don't rush it, and don't rush the healing. It's a healing process. Yeah. And I truly believe that by not rushing it, I think that's where God was able to I was able to hear him better and hear what he has for me, because I wasn't trying to rush through this healing or rush through to figure it out so quickly, and just really taking that sit time and just, be quiet. And, I used many early mornings when the kids weren't up yet to think and pray and journal and wonder, just kind of be curious of just like admit and be humble enough to just know that it was you who got yourself to this place by the decisions you made. It was nobody else's fault.
Yeah.
And it was humbling to admit that. But I think when you can finally admit that, that's when you can start making changes and taking steps. But also asking the Lord, like, what do you want from me? What are you trying to teach me in this place of like where I hate how the feeling of just being out of control, or the overwhelm, or the burnout is not a good feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go back there.
Yeah.
So where are you taking me, and what are you trying to teach me? What are you trying to show me and guide me for the next, the next steps? Because I think there's times in our lives that you can definitely see these like where you don't want it, you're not going to go back.
Yeah.
And it's a time to change. It's a time to step into something new just for yourself and for your faith, and for, I think, where God wants to grow you. Because I think that's the biggest thing, is just growing in a deeper, newer relationship with God too. So I think he opens your eyes too, especially when you slow down.
Yeah.
And you aren't trying to have the quick fix and sweep it under the rug.
Ignoring it.
Yeah. So slow down and just take your time to heal.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth it when you do it that way.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hanna. I appreciate this conversation.
Oh,
and just
my pleasure.
Your vulnerability to just be real about overwhelm and burnout, and even just like where you owned things and was like, this is me, and I need to figure out, what God's showing me. So,
well, it's an honor to be here, and I love what you do for women all over the world, and giving women the permission to share their stories and be real for where they are in their season of life too. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation on the Stories Unveiled podcast. We would love it if you would leave us a rating or a review. If you would like to learn more about Stories Unveiled and our events, go to storiesunveiledconference.com or follow us on Facebook or Instagram at storiesunveiled_. The Stories Unveiled podcast is created in partnership with KTSY and Barefoot Media Ministries. For more encouragement and other podcasts, visit ktsy.org. Have an incredible day, and go live unveiled.